fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV this Saturday night here in the Oceania region. Whatever time it is for you around the world, we welcome you to the Virtual Racing School GT Sprint Series, official GT racing on the iRacing platform in some magnificent GT3 machinery. And what a place we're at this week. It is Brands Hatch in Kent, one of the UK's most storied and famous racetracks, dipping up and down, side to side through the South England woods. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box once again is Bradley Wingard. Well, Bradley, the first time we broadcasted this series for the season was at Hockenheim last weekend. Now we go over to the UK to a very different circuit, which should still provide for some interesting racing.
Yeah, hey Reese. This last week, was just fantastic racing, and that was, as someone say, a flat, pretty boring circuit. Brands Hatch is completely different, and the races this week have been pretty phenomenal, and I'm expecting a bit of chaos, but a lot of tyre saving. So we'll see how that plays out during the race today.
Yes, indeed. We got 40 minutes around this brilliant circuit, and this is how it all stacks up here. 9 corners at Brands Hatch, and basically none of them are completely flat. You've got the great overtaking opportunity into Druids, into Surtees as well. Hawthorns also provides a good overtaking opportunity despite its speed. And then you've got turn 8 Stirlings, which is very difficult to get right. And you're going to be seeing quite a few drivers come unstuck through there. Not to mention out of the final turn, Clark Curve, turn 9. This track has been around for for over 70 years now, though not exactly in this configuration. Brands Hatch actually started out as a kidney-shaped grass track where Paddock Hill and Clark Curve are now. That's basically the outline of the original track here. It was just carved into the meadows where the local cycling club would take their bikes around it for races. Nowadays, it's a very different type of machinery that makes its way around Brands Hatch Circuit. In this case, we've got the Porsche 911 GT3R, a Lamborghini, goodness me, I completely forget the actual model name of the Lamborghini here, but one of the newer cars there on the iRacing service. We've also the Huracan, that's right, the Huracan GT3 Evo. How could I forget that? It's been a long day. I've just come away from racing a GT3 in an endurance race myself, but you have the Lamborghini Huracan, the Audi R8, and it looks like a Ferrari or two as well, but seems the majority of drivers here are going for either the Lamborghini or the Porsche, though I do see one Mercedes that Mitchell McLeod is driving.
Yeah, we've got a bit more diversity this week, which is always good to see. Quite a few more McLarens this week, same number of Lambos, some Porsches as well, so hopefully different sort of balance this week to last week. There's a lot more elevation, so people are more likely to choose their favorite sort of car rather than what's the most stable around the drag strip at Hockenheim. So should bring up some very interesting racing, and I'm excited to see what happens.
As am I, riding on board with Pedro Oliveira in his Lamborghini Huracan through Sterling's. That is a very difficult corner to get right on the exit, and then Clark Curve towards the end. Oliveira, one of the 4 drivers yet to set a time in this session, and I don't think he's going to be able to after that because he has dipped a couple of wheels off into the grass. That is an off track for him. Josh Thompson, meanwhile, 21.18 improves on his current best time. Thompson, the number 1 car in this session, which means he has the highest I rating in the field. And certainly some interesting competitors that we've got here tonight. Gerald Chevalier, who we saw competing last week at the Hockenheim Ring. We've also got GT Academy winner and real-life GT driver Jan Mardenborough racing here. He's one of the 3 drivers to not set a time so far in this session. Chevalier, meanwhile, making his way around. But only a few minutes left in the session, so if you want to get out, you got to do it now. And it looks like Jose Aguado and Pedro Oliveira, they are still making their way around the track, trying to set their fast times.
Yeah, I'm not sort of sure if this is the track where qualifying matters. It's very tight. Passing will be pretty difficult, but I am expecting quite a bit of carnage if last week is anything to go by, and maybe qualifying at the back or not qualifying isn't going to be that big of a deal, but for people like Josh Thompson and Chevalier, it might be all or nothing for them.
Might indeed. Chevalier setting a 21.649 to put himself 3rd overall, which is pretty fantastic. What can Oliveira do? He's currently on his 2nd lap. He's on his 2nd lap, so Oliveira's only got 1 more opportunity there. Try and get it done. Aguado has managed to put himself a little bit further up the order than before, but not quite a fast time from so far. 1 minute 27.6 is his fastest time as things stand at the moment. The Kronos Sim Racers driver makes his way down through Sterling's. Off the Grand Prix loop of Brands Hatch, he's run a little bit wide of the apex, which means he's not going to quite get the run down the straight that he would have wanted here. But let's see if he nails the finish here through Clark Curve and then out over the start-finish line. You'll have to gain 5 seconds there, and it looks like he has not been able to go faster. Actually set a 1 minute 27.639 on that one. A 6.38 is his current quickest time, so that is pretty painful there for Jose Aguado. Oliveira, though, 1 minute 22.463, which manages to put himself... well, no, unfortunately, it hasn't counted for him. Once again, he's fallen victim to the off-tracks around Brands Hatch, and it looks like along with Jan Mardenborough, he's going to be starting on the back row.
Yeah, a lot of UK tracks like to offer a lot of runoff, but not all of it counts, and I think that's catching a lot of drivers out at the moment.
Indeed. Well, we've got the starting grid on screen at the moment. It's going to be Josh Thompson and Alexander Bata on the first row here, with Gerald Chevalier and Daniel Hake making their way out from third and fourth. Michael Preston and Daniel Schulte make it the top six, with Oystein Herfjord and Juan Antonio Hueso starting 7th and 8th. And then it's Joachim Stenström and Andrei Rackovic starting out of the top 10.
Kimong Sipani and Fabian Mayer make out row 6. Row 7, Timo Schmidt and Elliott Smith. Mitchell McLeod back again after his unlucky run last week. Starts on the 8th row next to Luciano Assis. Pietro Robins and Michael Dobeck bring out 17th and 18th. 19th and 20th goes to Hendrik Stuter and William Dendian.
And then the field rounded out by Zachary Walsh, Isidro Miro Ferre, who we saw competing last week at Hockenheim, Jose Aguado, and Jesus Bermejo making the final drivers to set qualifying times, with Pedro Oliveira and Jan Mardenborough, the Lamborghini and the Ferrari, on the final row here. Now, as the drivers line up on the starting grid behind the pace car, we're going to be doing a full formation lap of Brands Hatch here, with what is expected to be a 30-odd lap race. In terms of strategy, the drivers will have to make one pit stop here tonight, and it's going to be likely just for fuel only. It's only 40 minutes around Brands Hatch, so it's not quite necessary to take tyres in these things. But the pit window for tonight is going to be between lap 9 and 22. So that's the window you got to watch out for to see drivers making their way into the pits here at Brands Hatch, which is very difficult, especially considering how much you have to push it out of that last turn.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to see a bit of a split strategy like we saw a bit last week. Some of the guys at the back, like Oliveira and Mardenborough, that didn't set qualifying laps, they might come in at lap 9, give as much space as they can and show their true pace, where someone like Josh Thompson's or Alexander Bata might run to lap 22 or lap 21 and make it as big of a gap behind them as they can. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Indeed. Certainly is. Josh Thomas, of course, with the brilliant-looking Williams Esports paint on there, on that Lamborghini, certainly stands out amongst this field. Alexander Bata, though, in the German simracing.de Lamborghini, will start alongside him, and they got to keep an eye out for Gerald Chevalier in the Cube Racing Lamborghini too, as Jan Mardenborough makes his way off the grid. It's been a while since I've seen Mr. Mardenborough racing, and ever since he won GT Academy back in the day, he's sort of been used as a prime example of a driver that used sim racing to really get his real-life racing career up and running. Mardenborough was already competing in real-life racing to some extent, so it's not really a story of from sim to seat, but at the same time, he certainly put in the hard yards and won that GT Academy competition, and now he's made a proper career out of it.
It's always what we like to see. People say this is just a game, but we know for a lot of people, I'm sure us included, it's so much more than that, and that proves it perfectly. Like, people put in the time and it pays dividends come real world application.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we like to see. We like to see where sim racing is headed, how it's evolved over the years, and we'd love to be right there with it as well. Through the Dingledell corner they go, where you can take quite a bit of curb under racing conditions. Of course, if they're lucky, they'll be in single file by the time they get there, but we'll see how much of a hassle Alexander Bata is to Williams Esports, as Josh Thompson as they lead the field away here out of Clark Curve. The safety car's lights are out, and it will pull into the pits. Pull right on over to the right. Now, when will Josh Thompson decide to go? He decides to go early at the pit entry and catches them all out. We are racing at Brands Hatch in the Virtual Racing School GT Sprint Series, and it is Josh Thompson who leads the way across the line. There's a move for second. Gerald Chevalier getting up the inside of Alexander Batta.
Oh, big crash at the back.
Oh, yeah, that's a big crash there. We got two cars into the gravel. It's Luciano Assis and Timo Schmidt. So Assis in the Lamborghini and Schmidt in the other Lamborghini. They've really come a cropper there as the rest of the field makes their way around the Graham Hill bend. And back up for second there is Alexander Batta, making his way back past Gerald Chevalier as the number 17 of Kimon Sapini battling very hard with the Porsche of Andrei Rackovic. And Rackovic right there has to back out because he knows that it's very difficult to make a move up the inside into this corner here. A very fast right-hander at the top of the track. Another Porsche further back, doing battle with Lamborghini. This is fantastic racing. Zachary Walsh there in the Porsche. He's got Pedro Oliveira and Jan Mardenborough right behind him, looking to vie for these positions. And Jose Aguado trying his best to hold on to that position that he's in as he gets into line behind Isidre Miro Ferre. But it looks like Oliveira and Mardenborough haven't been able to make much of an impression so far as we turn our attention back towards the front.
Rather quiet start to the race, minus that turn 1 incident. Everyone seems to be pointing in the right direction, which is usually what we like to see.
Yes, indeed. It's certainly not as chaotic as the first lap we had at Hockenheim last week, which is really good to see. Got a few real-life racing-inspired liveries here. I see a Golf Porsche, a Martini Porsche. Very nice colour choices there. But the battle for 4th place and 3rd is starting to heat up because you've got Daniel Hake and Michael Preston in the Porsches really chasing down Gerald Chevalier in the Lamborghini. Josh Thompson has streaked away for the time being. He's pulled out a very nice gap to Alexander Batta. But it seems that from 3rd on back here, this is where the battling is.
Not sure who I'd rather be right now. If I'd rather be Josh Thompson at the front. Yeah, he's got a nice gap, but he's got the pressure of being in front. Or Daniel Hake in 4th position. That aero wash through those fast corners is not going to be helping his case at all at the moment.
Now, with the amount of high-speed corners here at Brands Hatch, aero wash is something that you do have to worry about slightly. These GT3 cars, they do rely quite a bit on mechanical grip, as you would expect with most GT cars, but they still have quite a bit of aerodynamic development allowed on them. As it's Porsche versus Porsche out of Graham Hill Bend. Daniel Hake making sure he can keep Michael Preston behind. I think it's Hake or something like that, given that he is from the Germany, Austria and Switzerland club, Daniel Hake. But Jan Mardenborough making his way past the Lamborghini of Oliveira. So those guys are really trading places. They have absolutely left Jesus Bermejo behind, and up the really up the rear there of Jan Mardenborough is Pedro Oliveira. What can they do? Nothing much around this top part of the circuit, which is incredibly tight but incredibly fast. It's super difficult to fit any cars side by side along here. I mean, Brad, you can just see how narrow the track is through these sections.
Yeah, it's worlds apart from Hockenheim last week. Like, yes, Hockenheim as a track is a lot older than Brands Hatch is, but this track screams old school Grand Prix track, and that forest section just epitomizes that perfectly. It's so difficult to pass, but that's why we love coming here, isn't it?
Absolutely. Brands Hatch is sign of a bygone era here, and I'm sure the drivers are enjoying themselves as they chuck their GT3 cars around. Very interesting runoff usage there from Kimon Sapini in the Lamborghini, but looking a bit further up, these two Porsches, Daniel Haka and Michael Preston, looks like they've allowed Gerald Chevalier to get away from them slightly, and this is bringing into contention the BMW of Øystein Herfjord. Luminous Racing BMW is, oh no, looks like Aguado having a bit of a spin there at the back of the field. We'll get a virtual racing school replay, see what happened to him.
Oh, he's just overcooked it on the curb a little bit there.
Yeah, easy to do. They're very harsh curbs there on the exit here at Brands Hatch. And oh, I'm hearing some trouble from Zachary Walsh and Jan Mardenborough over the voice chat. We're going to stay on replay because this is what happened between the two of them. Zach Walsh in the Porsche, Jan Mardenborough in the Ferrari. Mardenborough said over voice chat that this was netcode, but Zachary Walsh is very unhappy with how this transpired. Making their way up to the Dingledale corner, and just a little bit of a bump there. It looked like there might have been a bit of visual space between the cars, but still, Mardenborough went in very hard to that corner.
Yeah, looked like a move was getting, he was setting the move up, but a little bit over-ambitious, a little bit more caution probably would have helped, but definitely netcode. But, still could have done more to prevent the incident in the first place, but very fast part of the circuit, so can also understand why he was that close as well.
Yeah, certainly. Dingledale's one of those corners that you can really go hard into. In fact, it's one of the corners that our battle pack here of Haka, Preston, Herfjord and Schulter are coming up to now. That curb right there. God, you could take so much of it, and it's so much fun to go through. But Sterling's comes up very quickly. You can very easily make you regret going so hard through the Dingledale corner. Have a look at how much they're just opening the throttle wide open out of that final corner. You got to try and get as much momentum as you can down the start-finish straight, and be very careful through Paddock Hill Bend. Try not to take too much curb, but oh, Preston nearly getting crossed up there, almost allowing Herfjord through. And this is bringing Schulter right into the fold. This has become a four-car pack as we ride on board with the BMW driver.
Coming up the hill into Hawthorns here it's such a good run. Going down the compression, the car gets super heavy. If you're in the draft, it's golden. If you're out of it, then it's got to wait another lap, really, because there's not many opportunities you can pass from here unless you're, right up someone's bumper until you get to turn one. And that game of patience slowly starts to wear on you on such a tight circuit. And I think that's where we're seeing some of the incidents unfold, is people are getting impatient already, but I don't think they realize it's only lap 6.
Yes, indeed. This is a 40-minute race, and we're not even a quarter of the way through it yet. Haka continues to lead this charge here, but the gap is continuing to extend ahead to Gerald Chevalier. There is second place, Alexander Batta, and then Gerald Chevalier. Josh Thompson has absolutely checked out here in the lead. He holds on to the lead by 4 seconds over Alexander Batta, and then it's another 2 seconds back to Gerald Chevalier. So there's not much to fight for up at the front, but it is from third on back that it's really heating up here. Riding on board with Kimon Sapini, and it looks like both he and Joachim Stenstrom have gotten a bit of a leg up on Juan Antonio Hueso, because Hueso ran a little bit wide onto the AstroTurf out of Graham Hill Bend, and even in the Porsche, which really likes to hang the tail out, it can be difficult to get the car turned in for that one.
Seems that Sapini's doing a little bit of a fuel save in behind Stenstrom, which won't affect his speed too bad. He's still there or thereabouts, but saving those extra little bits of fuel into those fast right-handers is going to mean seconds come this pit stop if he runs it till the end. So a lot of caution needed and a lot of patience, but I think he knows that, we are only a quarter of the way through this race, and it's going to be worth it come pit stops. So we'll see how that one goes towards the end of the race.
Yeah, we absolutely will. We're about to start coming up on the pit window as these guys have just started lap 8. So we'll see whether any of them decide to dive in at the end of lap 8 or the end of lap 9 for a little bit of something to get the neurons firing as to how these guys are going to tackle this race. The battle of the McLarens, meanwhile, it's 12th and 13th here between Smith and Meyer, Elliott Smith and Fabian Meyer. And they've got Mitchell McLeod and the Mercedes pursuing them very closely behind. And that is a very interesting looking livery on Elliott Smith's McLaren. I do like those sort of geometric looking paint jobs, but certainly when you look at it from the front, I don't think I'd want to see that in my mirrors because I'd start hearing the Jaws music.
Yeah, I think I can hear it already. They definitely strike fear into the car in front of you, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a fair way ahead to Andrei Rackovic. He doesn't need to worry too much about that. But these two McLarens making their way across the start-finish line now as we ride on board again with Kimon Sapini, making his way down through Paddock Hill Bend. I love the dive that you go through out of this corner and just how much of the runoff area, the tarmac, that you really have to take. Can't take too much curb in the Druids hairpin otherwise. Oh no, Mitchell McLeod has come a cropper out of Paddock Hill, and on the run up to Druids, something has gone very wrong for the Australian there, and he's got some massive damage. Virtual Racing School replay. It looks like Mitch did this all by himself. You go a little bit too hard into Paddock Hill Bend, you just catch the gravel, then the traction control kicks in, and it just swings him around and hard into the Armco. That's big damage to Mitch.
Yeah, well, didn't see much of that last week because, lack of sand or gravel runoff last week. We'll see if Mitch keeps going. Hopefully. The car looks a little bit dented, but it still seems to be running all right. But engine in the front of that, of course, so we don't know what sort of damage he's taken internally. That's the McLaren spinning.
That is a McLaren spinning indeed. That is Fabian Meyer, who we saw battling with Elliott Smith just before, and he's gone for a big loop coming into Sterling's. And as we get to the Virtual Racing School replay again, looks like this is another one of the pitfalls that you have to encounter around Brands Hatch. He just catches the grass on the entry to the corner, and it's a bit more difficult to place the car with sitting on the left-hand side of the McLaren. So poor Fabian, he's going to have to deal with a bit of damage himself now.
He's still continued on, which is good to see. Mitch McLeod, on the other hand, has pitted. Don't know if he's going to be taking that damage, fixing that damage, but good to see that Meyer is still pressing on and hopefully charge back forward again.
Yeah, we'll see what Meyer can do from here. Remember that incident might come into play later. Meanwhile, the battle of the Porsches for 4th place between Daniel Harker and Michael Preston. Blue versus orange, white versus black. The only driver so far to have pitted is Mitchell McLeod. Of course, that is partially to repair that damage that he sustained from his incident on the previous lap. The only other two cars in the pits are our two retirements, Timo Schmidt and Luciano Assis. Looks like we're having our first regular pitter of the race come in here. It's Peter Robbins making his way through the lane now, and for the first time we'll be able to get an idea of just how long a pit stop is in these GT3 cars, but that's going to be at the back of Michael Preston's mind as he pursues Daniel Harker here. Daniel will be looking back in his mirrors and thinking, oh dear, maybe it might be worth me pitting at the end of this lap just to get him out of my hair.
Yes, what I was talking about at the start of the race, the early pit stop to try and get some clean air as Robbins comes out of the pits behind Aguado in 22nd. So I'm sure he's hoping to use that fresh air as well to get ahead. And I would be thinking that maybe Preston is having that same thought right now.
Yeah, I think so as well. As we see Robbins out on track there behind Aguado, who is missing his front bonnet there from the Lamborghini. Of course, he had that incident catching the curb on the exit of the corner he just went through earlier in the race and hitting the Armco. Jan Mardenborough continuing to try and make his way up the field. He's making life very difficult here for Guillaume Dendien in the Golf Porsche. You'll notice that the Porsche 911 has the fuel filler cap on the right-hand side of the car, making its way into the pits because this track, of course, has a clockwise direction. The pit's on the inside. So, Guillaume, see how short this pit stop is for him. It looks like Robbins' pit stop was 9.7 seconds, and for Dendien, it is 11.7. Pedro Oliveira has also made his way into the pits, and it looks like his stop is 10.3 seconds. So I think at around the 10-second range for a stop here as the battle continues between Haka and Preston.
Here we go.
Who have we got here indeed?
Preston and Stenstrom.
It's looking like a good three-car battle here.
Yeah,
Sabini's really taken. Oh, Bradley, I'm sorry. We
My bad.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? You know, it happens all the time with people on, you know, different connections in different parts of the country. You hear a bit of silence, you think it's time to talk, and then it's just lurching, and you're both talking at the same time. It happens all the time. Don't worry about it. No hard feelings. But this is a really cool battle that we're seeing at the moment. Juan Antonio Hueso going backwards ever so slightly because Joachim Stenstrom and Kimon Sapini really starting.
Yeah, Hueso and Stenstrom, have not changed position since the start. Sapini's up 1, so not massive gains, well, throughout the top 10 really, but these guys are probably sick of looking at each other's cars. They've seen it for 18 minutes now, deep dive into the right-hander, but I'm sure one of them is hoping the other will blink first so they can get some clean air, but neither wants to be that one.
Yes, indeed. And I think Mr. Stenstrom might be slightly unhappy with Hueso there because you saw going into Hawthorns how tightly he was pushed to the edge of the racetrack by the Porsche. Of course, this is official racing, so iRacing and safety rating do count. You do have to be careful with how you race your rivals. But I think Hueso is quite hell-bent on keeping that position of his as the dual Porsche battle of Haka and Preston continues. And you see how much Preston is just firing into the turns, trying to square up the exit of Druids, and looks like almost trying to do the same there was Stenstrom. But here we go, coming up to the back straight here at Brands Hatch. A slightly earlier turn in for Daniel Haka, but he manages to hold on to it because Michael Preston wasn't quite able to hit the apex there.
As hard as these guys are pushing each other, they are slowly pulling away from Herford behind. He was right on the back of them 3 or 4 laps ago. But now he's being pressured from Daniel Schultz behind him, so that's taken some of the pressure off of Haka and Preston in front. So they're probably relieved, but also probably just want their pit stop to come. But again, neither wants to be the first to blink.
And when you have two cars locked in a battle like this, it's always a question of who's going to blink first, whether or not they'll follow each other in. Try and pit at the same time. I mean, that's the ultimate nightmare, isn't it? Pitting at the exact same time as your rival, because then you've got no potential variance between you at all. and it means the battle just continues as it is. So we're seeing these battle packs really start to form now. It's a two-way battle between Herfield and Schulte in the BMW and the Porsche, and then you've got the Porsche here followed by the two Lamborghinis. That's Hueso, pursued by Stenstrom and Sapini, and they're all just locked in these packs at the moment. There's no real sign of any of them looking to jump on into the pits just yet. The only cars to have pitted so far are Peter Robbins, Guillaume Dendien, and Pedro Oliveira. Looks like Mitchell McLeod has elected to retire from this race, so brings our retirements up to, well, it remains at 2 because Luciano Assis is back out on track. As we go to a virtual racing school replay, see if something happened here. Oh, yes. Goodness me, a change of position here between Stenstrom and Hueso, and that is textbook up the inside at Hawthorns goes Stenstrom. Very nice move.
That was 4 laps in the making at minimum. He had a look only a couple of minutes ago. That's like 3 laps, but he's probably relieved to get past. See if he can break away, or hopefully that time behind will save him some time in the pit stop to break that gap out come lap 23.
We shall see. All of these drivers have avoided the pits for now, and goodness me, Stenstrom really heckled by Juan Antonio Hueso into the braking zone of the Druids hairpin there. Got to be careful, boys, because we've still got plenty of this race to go. We've only just gone past half time in this race, and we're going to be seeing, I think, a big flurry of pit stops in the final third of the race, as there's a big draft from Sapini on Hueso, but he can't take advantage of it coming into Hawthorns. That Lamborghini may look very nice there with its combined shiny and matte paint job, but unfortunately that paint job alone cannot get the job done this time around. He's going to have a better exit from the corner beforehand if he wants any chance of getting past that Porker.
I don't know if he'll move into Clark curve coming up, or no, especially not if he runs wide like that. But
No.
Turn 1 maybe, otherwise I don't know. I'm no passing expert, we all know that, but without the grass, turn 1 was on, but with the grass I think he's going to wait another lap now.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be very tough. He'll have to count on Hueso making a mistake on the exit of Paddock Hill and maybe having a run up here into Druids. You see how much later he gets on the brakes, how much ground he gains coming up towards the apex of the corner, but the Porsche with its superior rear end traction just gets the job done on the exit beautifully. And that's what we love about this GT racing, is we have one of the McLarens of Fabian Meyer come in. We saw Meyer have that spin a little earlier, so now he's elected to bring it into the pits, see if he can try and make some sort of recovery. That's what we love about GT racing, Bradley. These cars are all very different from very different manufacturers, but they have very equalized performance, which means we can get some really good racing and still appreciate the differences between the cars.
I think that's why so many people are drawn to GT racing. Like you said, there's so much variation, but at absolute top level you can throw a blanket over them after 20 minutes or 24 hours. The BOP in these cars is second to none, and it's why we come here. It's why we love this. The sounds, the different engines, just makes it so much better just to listen to and to watch.
Looks like Peter Robbins is back into the pits for some reason. Elliott Smith also making his way in the McLaren, but Peter Robbins, we've already seen him come into the pits at least once this race, and Jan Mardenborough has elected to bring it in as well. Mardenborough has had a bit of a tough one starting from the back of the field, as oh no, that is the number 2 of Gerald Chevalier. He was running 3rd at the time. Something's gone very wrong for that Lamborghini coming out of the infield area. So virtual racing school replay of that one. He just, with the slow-mo, you can see he just got a bit crossed up over the inside curb and lost traction. That is a big shame. He reversed back out onto the circuit, and he just avoided getting cleaned up there by the battle between Daniel Haka and Michael Preston. So I think those guys very lucky to get away with that one. Michael Preston is now carrying an ever so slight bit of damage on his left front bumper, and they both avoid the pits once again for another time. So, it actually looks like Michael Preston has dropped off the back of Daniel Haka on that lap. So, Haka with a big slide. I think you saw that too, Brad. Goodness me. Yeah, that deserves a replay as well, I reckon. That was immense. It was a great save through Paddock Hill Bend. Talk us through it, mate.
Oh, I don't know if I needed a change of underwear after that, let alone him. That was a monster slide. That's one of the last places you want to tail slapper like that. He didn't even hit the curb. He just broke a little bit too much. The back end keeper kicked out. Thankfully, it's in like a rear engine car, so you had to wait. But that was a monster slide and a massive save to boot.
Absolutely. Love that. So he lives to fight another day, does Daniel Haka. And now looks to me like he's still continuing to draw that gap out on Michael Preston, who is now starting to fall into the clutches of Øystein Herfjord in the BMW. So there could be a battle going on here, and maybe Michael Preston is thinking this is a good time to pit. It's time to fall back into the clutches of this BMW. No, it's a good time to pit for Daniel Haka, on the other hand, and he comes into the pits.
First car in the top 15 to make a pit stop. 25 seconds in the lane. That'll drop him down to about 14th when he comes out, if everything goes smooth, just in front of, who is that? Dobek, who's coming around, who's pitting now. So I reckon these next 2-3 laps are going to be extremely busy for the top 15 drivers.
And they absolutely are. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one works. It looks like the majority of drivers have gone for a strategy that involves just running out the tank and putting in that little splash towards the end. So now Michael Preston will be leading the charge there in third. Of course, it is a battle for third now between him and Haka because of the spin for Gerald Chevalier. So let's see how this all works out now. Mr. Herfjord in the BMW might also be thinking, I have a shot at a podium position here if I play my cards right. How will this go for me?
Josh Thompson has just entered the pit lane. Alex Thada has continued on, so that's an interesting call, I think.
Yes, indeed. Well, we'll see how that works out between our top two at the end. I don't think there's going to be much in the way of competition. I would expect Josh Thompson to still be the leader when all of this works out. But we do have another pitter, Juan Antonio Hueso, in the Porsche. We saw embroiled in that massive battle with Mr. Stenstrom. And out comes Josh Thompson, just ahead of Gerald Chevalier, who has yet to make his stop.
Rackovic is also in from 10th place. There's a lot of activity in the pits at the moment. We've got 2 laps left for the pit window, so I don't know who's going to blink first, if it's going to be Herfjord or Preston, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yes, indeed. We still have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars still yet to take their stop as it's side by side on the exit of Druids between Elliott Smith and Andrei Rackovic. And it looks like Smith getting the move done very nicely. These guys are both pitted, so that is a proper change for position right there. Well done to Elliott Smith for getting that move done.
Yeah, Smith's pit transition time and stop was a full second faster than Andrei Rackovic, so that's definitely made the difference in this one. Not really much else you can say with that. Quicker pit stop equals further up the field.
And speaking of pit stops, have a look at how many are going to be taking place on this lap. We have got Preston Herfjord, who's overshot his pit box. Oh dear. We've got Daniel Schulter. We've got Gerald Chevalier. And we've also got Stenstrom, Sapini, and Stoira, and Bermejo all in the pits here. And it looks like Mr. Preston has made his way out of the pits, get this, ahead of Daniel Harker. That is a fantastic stop there for Michael Preston. 9 seconds stopped versus 11.3 for Daniel Harker. So between the two Porsches, Preston was able to save a little bit more fuel, put a little bit less in at the stop. Maybe he'll be borderline for fuel as the checkered flag approaches, but for now, he's gotten the gap and he's gotten the track position over his rival in this race.
Sapini also gained a couple of positions through that pit stop. He's up to 7th now. Not sure how that works out with the pit reshuffle, but many big gainers through that pit cycle. Maybe staying in the traffic, although slower, has saved them that little bit of fuel that's given them the quicker stops, sorry. And now we're seeing that come full circle in the last, what have we got, 10 minutes left of this race.
Yes, indeed. As we check back in with our leader, Josh Thompson. Barney the flag man positioned slightly differently to this here Marshall, but that is the gap to second place. It's a huge lead that Josh Thompson has over Alexander Bata. 9.5 seconds to be precise. So the Williams Esports driver has absolutely no competition in this race so far. Oh no, looks like Sapini back in for a second pit stop here. Something has gone wrong. He might have been speeding on pit exit potentially, but he has stopped. I gotta clarify to myself. Is it's usually a drive-through penalty given, right? For no, actually, it is a stop and hold for speeding in pits penalties. So, yeah, poor Kimon Sapini from the Germany, Austria, Switzerland club is going to have to sit there in his Lamborghini for quite some time, and he's going to go all the way to the back of the field. That is real heartbreak after playing the strategy so well throughout this race so far.
Not quite 5 minutes, but I would be fuming at a 40-second stop and hold with 8 minutes left in the race. That's after not so much a charge, but a very patient race in the just outside the top 10. That's almost controller against a wall worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. If he was using a controller, of course, I think it's safe to assume that all of these guys are using force feedback steering wheels. I wonder how many of them are using direct drives. Right on board here with the BMW of Oystein Herfjord through Paddock Hill Bend, and that is a mistake just up ahead for Juan Antonio Hueso. That allows Herfjord up the inside, and Hueso gets off into the gravel at Druids, and also allows Gerald Chevalier through as well. So 2 positions lost in a single corner there for the Porsche driver. And it looks like it might be a little bit of a recovery going on for Herfjord, because remember, he overshot his pit box and that has cost him a few positions. He was involved in the battle for third with Preston and Harker, but now he is currently in 6th, and he's got quite the gap ahead to Daniel Schulte.
A lot of drivers coming undone late in the race, wondering if maybe people have pushed too hard, tyres are gone, or you're getting hot and tired, or I don't know, but it's making the end of the race interesting, which is always good, but not good if you're actually in the cockpit.
Yeah, certainly, and definitely not good if you're Elliott Smith looking back at Andre Rackovic, who we ride on board with. Rackovic, since being passed by Smith, is the flames of the exhaust of that McLaren. I have to mention that every time. It's been a little bit of a fight back going on here for the orange Porsche, but you see a Ferrari behind them. That is Jan Mardenborough, who's continuing to make his way up here. Mardenborough's currently in 13th place, and get on the brakes. Big burst of flames from the McLaren. That's been a feature of this car pretty much since it was added to the iRacing service, and graphical updates, of course, have brought greater magnificence to the fire that this classic GT3 car breathes. The McLaren is the oldest GT3 car still in use in official racing on the iRacing service.
I think we need a new, not a GoFundMe, but a new poll. Bring back exhaust flames 2021. Let's do it, because that's why we love the McLaren. And the supercar does it a little bit as well, but the McLaren's the best by far. It looks like a jet rocket, and it looks awesome.
Certainly does. This also looks awesome here. This battle between Michael Dobek, the sole Audi in the field, and Pedro Oliveira, who we saw have that very tough run in qualifying and had to start on the back row of the grid. He's been struggling all race to try and fight his way into the top half of the field, but he might just get one more position in the dying minutes of this race versus Dobek. The Audi driver, over the curb they go. And these two cars, the Lamborghini and the Audi, are effectively the same car underneath. They both run naturally aspirated V10 engine. They're both based on the same basic road car platform. In real life, as Dobek goes slightly wide, Chevalier, meanwhile, has gone off again at Paddock Hill. He manages to just get going again in the midst of the field going by. We'll get a virtual racing school replay of that particular incident. But Chevalier is going to be absolutely kicking himself here. He qualified so well and he's gone nowhere.
Same thing. Is that what happened last time? He overcooked it, rear stepped out, and off he went. Just think drivers again are just pushing that a little bit too hard and falling short because of it, and it's awful to see. But I guess that's racing at the same time.
Yeah, certainly. Oh, this looks like a pretty good exit there for Oliveira. At least on the initial throttle application, it looked good. Mr. Dobek might be in trouble here if Oliveira can keep up this pressure, but no dice through Hawthorns. What about through the diving turns here, coming up to Dingledell? Over the outside curb they go, and you can use an awful lot of that curb to carry as much speed as possible. And Dobek has, he overcooked it slightly through Dingledell, lost a bit of mid-corner speed. And through the slightly banked Sterling's corner, it's another ever so slight advantage to Pedro Oliveira. Let's see what happens here across the line as they come up to 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go, and the start of lap 27. This is such a close and tough battle between this Audi and this Lamborghini. Love watching it. And you see Oliveira taking a little bit more curb. It's translated into a good run. He almost squeezes up the inside, but Dobek goes defensive. Moving to the outside then is Oliveira. Dobek still having to defend on his way down to Graham Hill Bend. This is a great battle.
Great battle it is indeed. There was almost a second move under braking. Might have just been a bit of a wiggle with the brakes by Dobek, but perfectly positioned car, completely cut off the momentum from the car behind him. He still holds position, but coming up into the right-hander of Hawthorne is going to be very quick and very interesting.
Looks like just backing out of it a bit there is Pedro Oliveira. He's going to wait for another opportunity on the next lap. He knows that he's got to basically set up his moves half a lap in advance here unless there's a mistake from Dobek. And we cannot take our eyes off this battle at the moment because it is just fantastic. It is one of the closest battles on track at the moment. Though I am seeing that Jan Mardenborough is starting to come up onto the back of Elliott Smith in the McLaren for 10th place. But there we go. Just as we cut away, big hit there for Michael Dobek. He managed to get the grass on the Exeter Clark curve. The pressure was simply too much for him, and away he went. Virtual Racing School replay of that maneuver. That's a big shame. Again, you get off the circuit and then the traction control kicks in. The car just bucked sideways and there was nothing Michael could do.
Just a passenger and spectating with that one. It's, I guess, the easiest pass to make is the one that you don't have to, and when the driver does it for you, the other driver does it for you, makes it even easier. So unfortunate there, but big moves up front.
Yeah, for 10th place, Jan Mardenborough trying desperately to get into the top 10 here, trying to pass Elliott Smith in the McLaren, but Smith was able to hold the outside of Hawthorns beautifully there on that lap. I think this is certainly not going to be over though, with 1 minute to go. Josh Thompson, I think, might just make it one more lap after this one, depending on where he is on track. We'll have to wait and see though. It looks like actually it is white flag, so Josh Thompson will be making his way Oh, well, we're getting some conflicting messages here. So, we'll have to wait and see. But Mardenborough, right on the back of Elliott Smith. It's been a back-of-the-grid start here for Jan Mardenborough. Can he get it done into the top 10? Certainly be magnificent if he could.
Has he run out of fuel?
Oh, no! Oh, he slowed right down. I think he might have. Oh, it's a big shame for Jan. I was going to say, that's one of the best drives of the race. And it looks like Josh Thompson has crossed the line with only 2 seconds to go on the clock. So now this is the final lap, but it's big drama for Jan Mardenborough. That is huge. And he's back in the pits. Oh, that is devastating for Jan. I really hope that he can try and carry some more of that momentum into future races, both this week and in the coming weeks, because he certainly showed some magnificent pace working his way up through the field. 12th and 13th, Chevalier, who tried his best to capitalize on a third place qualifying, trying to make his way past Jesus Bermejo, who started back in 24th. He's one of the biggest movers in the field. In fact, he is the biggest mover. 11 and now 12 positions as they pass Jan Mardenborough in the pits. Can Chevalier recover that 12th position from him before the very end? Well, certainly not going to be on the mind of Josh Thompson for Williams Esports. He is on the final stretch now towards Clark Curve, and he's going to take one more right-hander here and take a dominant victory in the Virtual Racing School GT Sprint Series here at Brands Hatch. A magnificent drive from the Briton.
Absolutely unchallenged. I think he led every lap until the pit stops, and Alexander Batta put up a good fight, but it just wasn't enough. He got Thompson outclassed the entire field today and fully deserves that win.
Oh, certainly does, and a well-deserved podium for Michael Preston. He beat Daniel Harker through the pit stops and took advantage of Gerald Chevalier's mistake to make his way up into the final podium positions. Big congratulations to Michael for that. Who's going to be the winner out of this one, Bermejo or Chevalier? Just one more corner between them, and side by side on the exit, and a little bit of contact, but it looks like it's going to be Bermejo. No, contact! Contact at the line! Oh! Goodness me. Excuse me. Jesus Bermejo crossing the line ahead of Gerald Chevalier there. But I think they are going to be very unhappy with how that eventuated between the two of them. A little bit of a replay there.
I think it's a good thing that the race on Sunday, sell on Monday, doesn't really apply to motorsports anymore, because I don't think they're getting much for those cars anymore. But you got to take every inch that you're given, and both drivers on the radio not too angry. They know that last lap you got to do whatever you can, and good to see a bit of respect between the drivers. But you can't get much of a closer finish than that.
No, certainly not. The cars were practically inside each other going through that. But either way, we're going to take a look at the official results here. Josh Thompson by 11.7 seconds over Alexander Batta. That is an incredible victory there for the Williams Esports driver, and he's going to be carrying that momentum forward through this season. Michael Preston, of course, rounding out the top three, beating Daniel Harker through a slightly quicker pit stop. Daniel Schulte is going to round out the top five. Øystein Herfjord, well, what might have been were it not for overshooting his pit box. Well, it's certainly a what might have been indeed. Juan Antonio Hueso holds on for 7th, beating Joachim Stenström and Hendrik Steurer, with Elliott Smith taking the final position in the top 10 in the McLaren. He was getting massively hounded at the end by Jan Mardenborough before the number 19 ran out of fuel.
Starting the second lot of 10, Andrei Rackovic. Pretty good race by him. He was up, he's down one, but still well-run race. Bermejo in 12th. Gerald Chevalier, very, very mixed bag for him. Very unhappy, I can imagine. Julian Dendin in 14th. Pedro Oliveira in 15th. Michael Dobeck in 16th. 17th goes to Fieri. 18th, Mayer. Zachary Walsh, 19th. And Jose Aguado in top 20.
Jan Mardenborough ran out of fuel right at the end. He's the first of our retirements here at Brands Hatch. It's a big shame for Jan. He was right on the verge of getting into the top 10 after starting from the back of the grid. Kimon Sapini got a speeding in pits penalty. Luciano Assis was able to get back out on circuit after being involved in the lap 1 incident. Peter Robbins unfortunately had to retire, as did Mitchell McLeod and Timo Schmidt. Those are your 26 cars here in the top split for Virtual Racing School GT. Next week we stay in the UK and we go to the Snetterton Circuit in Norfolk. We're racing at the 300 layout of this brilliant airfield-based circuit, and Snetterton certainly turns it up, and it's a really good track for racing. It's got a very tight hairpin and a twisty infield section that really tests the drivers, plus some very long straights to boot. Very good drafting opportunities there, Bradley. I can't wait to see how the racing turns out there.
Yeah, another small touring, well, not small, but touring car track with GT cars on it. Always makes things a bit more spicy, so looking forward to that one.
As am I, and certainly hope so are you out there watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Here on SimSpeed TV, we'll be happy to bring you every week of the remaining Virtual Racing School GT Sprint Series season here in 2021, Season 3 on the iRacing service. That's been round 3 from Brands Hatch Circuit. Your top 3, once again, Josh Thompson, Alexander Batter, and Michael Preston. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Bradley Wingard alongside me, and Jay Kennedy making everything happen behind the scenes, producing, directing, all of that jazz. We hope that you can join us next Saturday night for the race at Snetterton. Who's going to take the spoils there? Find out with us.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?